Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games, the Weekend Games. We are ending the year, that's right, it is New Year's Eve as I'm recording this. 2020 is on the way, 2019 cannot get behind me soon enough. You guys were a major highlight this year. Thanks for putting up with all my videos, and looking forward to next year in a big way. I don't know what you guys do for New Year's Eve, but my wife and I, we're real party animals. Yeah, we always have a tradition. About 10 years ago, 7, 8, whatever, we found a movie that we really like. We have this tendency to watch movies on holidays that are based on the holiday. Christmas, that's easy, right? Like Thanksgiving, it's always Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because that takes place at that time. Groundhog Day is Groundhog Day. So I haven't found a really good one for 4th of July. But the New Year, there are very few New Year's movies, When Harry Met Sally, etc. But we found one called The Big Year. The Big Year is about bird watching. Very weird. Would have never guessed that we would pick it up, but it has some of our favorite actors. It has Jack Black, Owen Wilson, and that wild and crazy guy, Steve Martin. And yet it's not a comedy. Very strange movie. Really liked it. So every year we watch The Big Year because it takes place from New Year's Day to New Year's Day. This year we're incorporating a new tradition called Wingspan because if we're going to go all bird out, then we might as well bird out. And so Wingspan is going to be our game to play tonight. We don't play it too often. We like it. We played it a little bit when it came out, but we now specifically will be saving Wingspan to play on New Year's Eve. Weird? I think so. Let's get to the news. Okay, not a ton of news because people are in holiday mode and Christmasizing and New Year'sizing and stuff. So there hasn't been a lot of things coming out. I'm sure it will be explosive next year as all years are. But for now, the only news really to share is that a game called Targi, a two-player game that has worker placement that's really tight and tense and actually pulls it off well, is getting an expansion. What makes this interesting is that this expansion comes almost 8 years after its initial release. That's crazy. So sometime in 2020, you're going to get an expansion for a game 8 years in the rearview mirror. So looking forward to that. And with that, question of the week. Okay, question is, what were my high points and my low points in gaming this year? Let's go with the high points first in a strange twist of reversal. The high points are, there were two in particular. There were a lot of games this year, so it wasn't just a matter of what events shown in this dark panorama of gaming. It wasn't. There was a lot of games this year. You can tell behind me if I ever show you the Sanctum and do my review on it. There were a lot of games that came out this year, and a lot of them were solid and good. But the two that, for memories, one is the Klask tournament. Now, Klask is a game from Denmark that's basically air hockey with magnets, and it's so simple, and I didn't even bother with it, but it came out, and suddenly everybody wanted to play it. It is a game that you can literally teach without having to say a single word. Everybody understands. And it's clever, and I got it for like a steal of a deal price. My wife's Danish, and so anything made in Denmark that sold 500,000 copies was intriguing. So we have been having Klask tournaments galore. So if you want a fun little game that you can put on a table and people will actually gravitate to it, and like zombies to a zombie magnet, go with that. The other thing is we had not one but two Vital Lacerda games in a single year. Escape Plan and On Mars. That's crazy. So that was another sort of bright point on that. Otherwise, there were a lot of bright points. I've already said, like, having this channel and having just the wonderful feedback and the back and forth interaction with all of you has been absolutely just invigorating, because the year itself, like everybody has, we have our ups and downs in the years. A lot of downs this year away from gaming, but you know what? Definitely have enjoyed this channel and the people on it. Low points. This is one where I would say the biggest thing is we lost way too many people. I probably will say that. I could probably say that every year, but we lost way too many people in the games industry this year. Foremost in my mind is Chad Jensen, who I never met personally, but have been in circles with his circles, et cetera, et cetera. He passed away after a ferocious battle with cancer, and I know firsthand that struggle. And his courage and his wife's courage were astounding. He will be missed. The other low point came about in the late spring. There was a great divide among some of my some really great people concerning a game that GMT Games canceled. It was called Scramble for Africa, and setting aside the direct controversy, it saddened me greatly to see such a diverse group of just really cool people have such deep division. We lost some long running contributors to some popular online forums. Because of how deeply divided it was. It just seemed like a no-win situation. Now, I have my opinion on the matter, but I have no desire to share it, because as someone who eschews arguments as often as possible, I did the only thing that I could think of, and that was I bought the book, because this book is a very, very interesting and highly recommended book. It probably, reading it and not reading it, I don't think it'll change anyone's mind, but I think any time that I can be more informed about a particular situation is the better. So I bit the bullet, spent the $2 to buy it on Amazon used, and read it through and through, and it filled a gap of knowledge I didn't otherwise possess, because I love history, and I've read a tremendous amount about many historical events throughout the world and stuff. Africa was one of the ones I didn't do a lot of. I didn't have as much knowledge as I did of American history, European history, Middle East history, and so this gave me a great opportunity to kind of fill in that gap with some knowledge. So anyway, those were the low points and the high points. Now let's get to my 3 games and lighten the mood. A fistful of meeples, marmots. That's right, a fistful of meeples. You will find a fistful of meeples. Had to do that. Basically, this is Mancala. Mancala with cowboys, and you're grabbing a group of meeple boys, cowboys, whatever, and you're spreading them around in Mancala style, and wherever they land, you do special actions. It's simple, it's tight. Looking forward to trying it out tomorrow, actually. No, Thursday, with the gaming group. Wakanda Forever. This was an awesome gift that I got from my middle daughter's boyfriend, who knew I liked games, worked at Target, and managed to pick this sucker up. We played it. It's interesting. It's very light, but I could see people really enjoying it. It works best with 3 or probably 4. I think 4 people would be the best way to play it. And finally, out of the blue, Deep Blue, Days of Wonder's latest game. Days of Wonder, they used to be like the game like they always buy, and lately I've been buying them, but more passively. They still have awesome quality components. The gameplay is still pretty approachable. In this one, it's weird. We had Wreck Raiders, and now we have Deep Blue. You're basically searching for sunken treasure. It's kind of a push your luck, kind of a deck builder, but very, very light on both counts. So anyway, those are the 3 games. Now it's time for Alphabet Soup. All right, here it is. Top of the line for J's. And again, J is not a very well-filled group of games in my collection, so there might be some layover, but not. Jambo. Top of the line has to be Jambo. Jambo is so cool. It's this tight, small, 2-player game of fighting over trade goods in the middle heart of Africa. Irony. Jambo is, the cards are just art. I could build a gallery out of the cards of artwork. I would not play it without the expansion. I think the expansion does a lot to fill in some of the dead times when you're going back and forth with trade goods. But it is still, years and years later, top of the line. My wife will never refuse to play it because it's just a great game. Bottom of the barrel has to be Journeys of Paul. Now, I am, as a Christian, I'm always on the lookout for good games with a biblical theme. Definitely, yeah, this ain't one of them. This was pathetic. I did end up repurposing the board to make a map that I could use for my instructional times with my kids when they were little, but yeah, this one's not really a Journey of Paul. It's more like a Gurney of Paul. Way better games out there in that regard. So, came out of nowhere, has to be Jaws. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Jaws is a surprisingly good Target exclusive almost, I think, Target, but yeah, a game that It's really good. You play the shark, you play the other guys. It goes back and forth. The two phase of the game kind of remind me of Hunt for the Ring, another game where you basically play half the game, then you switch over and play another half. But, coming out of nowhere, definitely came out of nowhere, and definitely was an entertaining game. Like, fits in the pack, it's above average quality. Riches to Rags has to be Jaipur. Now, I know Jaipur is a very popular two-player back-and-forth game. Once again, kind of like goods trading with Jumbo. Maybe Jumbo ruined it for us, but after a few games, we felt like it was all, we'd conquered all there was to conquer, and like Alexander, we decided to go into a funk. And so that one game, it's good. It's not great. If I was going to play Jaipur, I would play a number of other games instead. Meaty Mighty Manwich John Company. This game looks small. It is not small. It is a very, very deep and compelling game in the J. Once again, there are way more complicated games, but John Company was the top of the line complexity-wise for me in the list of my collection that had started with J. Test of Time, we're just going to have to go back to Jumbo, because Jumbo is a game, like I said, my wife will play it anytime, anywhere, anyway, and there are very few games that she will do that with. Comeback Tour, I would like to see Jab Real-Time Boxing make a comeback. This game is a little underrated in that it was really hard to explain. It's a real-time boxing game, but it's not a racing game. How they pulled that off is very curious to me, but until you know that, this is one of the games like Tortuga. It's the island that you can only be found by those who know where it is, if you remember Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean. But until you know how to play it, you won't know how to play it. And I actually think that they should redo this. I would love to see this come back in a way that people could really understand better, because I really think it did a lot better job of trying to explain boxing in a real sort of simulated way. But people would just throw cards, punch, and forgetting that there's more to boxing than just throwing punches as fast as you can until someone knocks you out. Honorable mentions. Theme, Jumbo. It's still, seriously, Jumbo takes the cake in the J department. Artwork-wise, though, I think we need to give a nod to Jamaica. Definitely, either one of those are very close, but for artwork, we'll give the nod to Jamaica. That's it, and I am very thankful for all of you. I wish every one of us a prosperous, successful, and just peaceful 2020. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.